There's been movement at Crystal Palace. Joachim Andersen about to head off to Fulham, so we're told, for about £30 million. The Denmark international had a medical at Craven Cottage yesterday and will now return to the club he played for back in the 2020 to 21 season. Joining us more for this now, a mate of mine, former Crystal Palace manager Iain Dowie. Morning, Iain.
Iain.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Cass. How are we doing?
Yeah, good.
Look, before we talk football, the first thing is to say, how are you, more importantly?
Yeah, very, very good. I'm very fortunate. I didn't really realise when it happened to me. I was in a spinning class. And
just tell people, Iain, what happened to you, for people who don't know.
I had a little check out because my boys were chasing me for making sure you'd have a look at your heart. I went there and I had a little bit of a problem with atrial fibrillation, but no big deal. Carrying on, was having a little bit of medication. Went to a spinning class, which I did quite regularly, and then 12 minutes in, I don't remember anything, but 26 hours later, I had a cardiac arrest, which means doesn't matter where you are, 9 out of 10 die. So that's what happens in cardiac arrest. I didn't know that in the slightest. So very, very difficult scenario. I woke up 26 hours later with the two kids, my two boys, and my missus beside me, and worrying whether I'd come round. But fortunately, it's all been good. And since then, I've been, I've had a little ICD fitted, which means that at any time in the next 15 years, if my heart stops, it will stop. It will start again. But they don't really know exactly what caused it. But just shows you. And actually, I was at the PFA Awards. I bumped into Justin Edinburgh's family there, and I was just chatting about it. And him and Cyril Regis have been more unlucky. It's a terrible thing, but something that everyone needs to know about, so we can make sure that if it happens to someone, you can jump in and put your hands on their chest to make sure you keep the blood flowing.
And in how you're explaining it, you're actually quite fortunate to be in a gym then, because obviously they had sort of the procedure to know exactly what had gone on.
Very, very true, Cass, because to be fair, I did at the time, I do a lot of walking up in the lakes and bits and pieces, and in the round where I live, we do some huge, like 20, well, not huge, but they're big walks, maybe 20 kilometres or 30 kilometres, and I could be in the middle of there with family, and no one would ever have, been able to probably repair it. So very, very lucky, right place, right time, and then just got to make sure that, don't put that to waste. So, it's one of them things. I'm delighted that I'm still on this planet, but what for me, I thought I was fairly well read. I didn't even have a clue that 9 out of 10 died of a cardiac arrest.
No.
So.
Well, look, we're obviously so happy that you were in the right place, to be honest, Iain. Look, let's just talk briefly about football, pal.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace, they've sold Elise. Joachim Andersen's on the way. Gahey's still being sought by Newcastle. Are you surprised? Are you concerned that they look to be selling the crown jewels?
Well, I think there's no doubt that, when you look at the Andersen deal in terms of the size of the clubs and everything, but my view is he's going for a higher wage really for the later part of his career. So I sort of get that one. The Michael Elise deal. What can you do when Bayern Munich comes and the lad wants to leave? And Kaz will know if a player sets their mind to it. You can't really turn that around other than just hang out for a bigger price, which they're probably doing on Gahey. But it proves the quality of the work that Dougie, Freedman and Steve Parish have done. They've run it well. But what my point is, I think Joachim Andersen's a very key cog in that team. He's as good as there is on the ball, stepping out and passing. In the Premier League, really, you look at his pass completion, it's quite incredible. So he hits that big diagonal out to Elise or Eze, wherever it happens to be. So that's a big loss. Now, it looks like we're replacing him with Mexican Lequar, the boy from Wolfsburg, maybe Arojo from Benfica. But all I'm saying is I just think that the overall thing is, say that the other two did go, Eze and Gahey, that would be a decimation of the team. For me, it'd be very difficult. Now, I don't think Steve or Dougie want to let that happen unless they've got the right recruitment. But my view is that's really difficult if all of a sudden, Mark Gahey, I think, will be close to going, given that Newcastle are getting close to what they are. So if a bid for Eze coming in late, he'd be thinking, well, these have gone on. That's the problem with that. How do you keep hold of them players? And the sheer balances, you can't really, because you get a different player if you turn down a deal for Gahey to Newcastle, for example, for that amount of money.
Yeah. Look, Iain, when you've had a season like most of them did last season, the vultures are hanging over your football club. It's what part of the problem of keeping hold of them. And Crystal Palace have somehow, like you said, got to stay firm on keeping at least one or two of them. Yeah,
I agree with that. I think yes, plant the feet in the ground. And I think, when you think about Oliver Glasner, he came in, had a sort of difficult-ish start, and then hit. When all them players are back fit, he hits the ground running. So, an amazing end to the season, winning 6 out of the 7 games, winning away at Liverpool. So a real buzz around the whole place. I understand there's going to be spades in the ground to start building the new stadium, the new stand, which is going to be a huge difference and allow more income to come in, therefore higher wages. I just think that as you well know, Cass, because you play for many in the area, it's a really huge football club in terms of support. And my view is they need to keep the best players. And that's going to be a real difficult balancing act that Steve Parish has to do. One, the players will be knocking on the door maybe and saying, listen, I've been great here. I've got 2 years. Mark Gay's got 2 years left. It's going to be an awkward one for them to keep him in them scenarios. Now, of course, they can replace him, and Dougie and Steve have done really well in the recruitment. But, it's going to be, I think it's very difficult. It'll be very difficult to keep Gahey before the window ends.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.